Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen from elsewhere. You are welcome to my presentation, and we just go on right away. The title of my presentation is Modeling New Faculty Development Program on the Effectiveness of Competency-Based Education Approach in a Sociology of Education course. Not much to say about me. My name is Kola Barbarinde. We'll talk more about that later. First important thing I can say about myself is my teaching and learning philosophy. And it is captured by this word, high on the word. 2013, when I was on a visit to the Center for Teaching and Learning, University of Wisconsin, Canada, I went through a course in a teaching portfolio, and we were made to capture, teaching and learning philosophy. As I was finishing it, we went on a visit to Detroit Institute of the Art, and I saw this painting by one Iranian painter on display, and the title was High on the World, and it captured that. Since then I've adopted it, high on the world, because I take teaching and learning as high on the world. That is, it is through teaching and learning that I try to bring about changes in skills, in attitude, and in values of people I come across with, believing that we can make the world a better place through teaching and learning. So that summarizes my learning philosophy. Permit me also to dedicate this presentation to a departed teacher, mentor, and friend. He died 13 days ago. He was actually the person who first employed me into academics. He was my mentor, a friend, and a benefactor. He died suddenly 13 days ago. He's going to be buried tomorrow. Unfortunately, I won't be there to pay my last respect, and I feel this is my own little way of honoring him, Professor Kayode Ajayi. May his soul rest in peace. Now, I'm from Nigeria, and Nigeria is a little far from here, and it's a federation with a population of about 190 million people. If you compare that with Spain, it's about 4 times the population of Spain. But in terms of land area, it's about twice the size of Spain. It's in the tropics, and we operate a federation, a republican constitution. It's a developing country operating a presidential system of government. The weather, today's weather is as close as it can be with that of my place in Nigeria. Currently, the weather here in Bilbao is 24 degrees. In Nigeria now, it's about 34. In my place, in the northern part, it can be much higher. So that's Nigeria is in Africa. And if we are like directly below Spain, on the same, that's why we operate the same time zone, except the last 1 week when 1 hour difference came in. The Nigeria, if you see, Spain is like top like this. So they're in the same time zone. Nigeria has so many ethnic groups. We have not less than 500 different ethnic groups and speaking different languages. But there are few ones that are considered as the major ones. We have 3 major ones. The Hausa Fulani in the north is a country of diverse culture, but beautiful culture and dressing. So the Hausa Fulani in the north, you have the Igbos, the Jaws, and so on in the southeast, and then you have the Yoruba in the southwest. I'm from the Yoruba part of the country, colorful people. So I'm from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. I'm a member of faculty there. University of Ibadan is actually the first university of the country. It was established in 1948 as a college of University of London, because Nigeria was then under the British rule. In 1960, when we got our independence, it became a full-fledged university. Today, we have about 150-something universities made up of federal, state, and private ones. But University of Ibadan remains, the oldest, and as we say, the best. These are sites of University of Ibadan. I'm in the Faculty of Education, and my department is that of Teacher Education. But shortly before I left the country, the department was split into 3. It became big. So I will now be in the Department of Early Childhood and Foundations. So it keeps growing. Now, my faculty development mandate. Some years ago, I led a team of researchers in a study funded by MacArthur Foundation on capacity building in pedagogical skills. It was part of a larger grant for the university for institutionalization. And the project that came out to be very productive was supposed to be part of the institutional development of the university. The project was quite successful. It was meant to develop the capacity of faculties to be able to teach better. And as a result, the project became a center. A center was set up, and I was appointed the pioneer director of that center. That's my connection with faculty development and teacher education. And this business of the center really is to support faculty members to improve their knowledge, skills, and values of teaching and learning, and thus become more effective teachers, promoting better learning. Since that period, we've organized several workshops, guest lectures, and a whole lot of things. It's the 5th year now that I've been coordinating the center with few number of staff, but it's been quite rewarding. And as a result, that's developed my own capacity. I've learned a lot more, and I've been able to impact on others. Now, but most academics are employed based on their being expert in subject area, whether in physics, chemistry, languages. So it is assumed that when you are good in your subject area, you can teach better, which is not usually correct. In order to achieve learning, you need to add something to your knowledge of the subject matter, which is pedagogy. Pedagogy, science of teaching. But if we are humanity-based, we can call it art of teaching. So if you combine knowledge of subject matter with knowledge of pedagogy, you're likely to achieve effective learning in a much more robust way than somebody who is just expert in subject matter. But since many people are employed based on their being expert in subject matter without much thought to their knowledge of pedagogy, what you find out is that they employ usually what we call transmission model of teaching, or what we call sage on the stage, whereas the teacher sees himself as the expert or herself as the expert talking to a group of students who are presumed to have no knowledge. So he delivers his knowledge, is the sage on the stage who must be listened to. But this model of teaching has been discredited. It's been found to be less effective because it doesn't engage the participation of learners. And so it has generated demand for us to look for new ways, better ways of achieving learning in a more interactive way. And that is why so many ideas have come up. And this is where competency-based education comes in. What can we do to make teaching and learning more interactive, more effective, more engaging, and indeed achieving the goal that the users of education really want? In the transmission model, when students fail, you engage in blame model. It's either the fault of the student or the administration of the institution will blame the teacher. It's the teacher who is not doing it. So it's a blame model kind of a thing. But unlike that, competency-based education rejects blame model and adopt integrative model that takes teaching and learning as integrative. Integrative in the sense that it is more effective in achieving learning outcomes, whether subject-specific learning outcomes or the generic outcomes or the soft skills. It also adopts several complementary teaching and learning strategies, including evaluation or assessment. Now, the integrative model has a number of components. It requires knowledge of how students learn. If we are going to be a faculty or a teacher or a facilitator, you need some knowledge of psychology of learning. How do students learn and what goes up when they learn? It promotes high level of activities resulting in deep learning. So in teaching and learning, it's not just the teacher doing something. The teacher must be doing a number of things, and the learners too must be doing several things. So you need to combine several things within a short period of time in order to achieve learning. It also realizes that students may use low-level activities, and so the responsibility of the teacher is to encourage them to use high-level activities. It knows that every teacher has some theory of teaching which affect how they teach. And so when you are intervening in the competency of a faculty member to teach, you must also probe into their philosophy of teaching and learning. What do they consider teaching and learning to be, and how to shape that to be in tandem with learning. It affirms that good teaching supports appropriate learning activities and discourages inappropriate ones. And as a result, it adopts distributed collaborative model, or what we call guide, what has been called guide on the side. That is, the teacher is no longer regarded as a teacher now, but is a facilitator. Is communicating with individual learners, and is also receiving feedback from them. It's also reassessing his own ideas and opinion as a result of that interaction. So this is client-server model or guide on the side role of the teacher in a competency-based education model. Now, we have adopted two key theories to drive this study because of my background in philosophy and sociology of education. So my bias is to look for theories in those areas. The first one is Plato's Epistemology, which is also called Plato's cave or analogy of the cave, which describes a situation whereby some prisoners were kept inside a cave. They were chained down, facing the wall. Light was beamed from their back against certain objects. And so that light started generating some shadows on the wall. So they were looking at those shadows, but they took those shadows to be reality because that's the only thing they've ever seen. Until one of them escaped from there outside and then saw that, oh, what we have been seeing is such a shadow of the real object. And so it illustrates human nature in its education and want of education. The shadows are as close as the prisoners get to view reality. And then it's an attempt to explain the philosopher's position in the society. That is, to enlighten the prisoners of appearances and then make them behold reality. What are the implications of this theory for our study? How can we make the faculty members shift its gaze from the shadow to the light of educational and pedagogic research? There are so many ideas that many faculties have about teaching and learning. If the students are not doing well, it's their fault, or blame model, all sorts. But how can we then get them to, move their gaze from there onto the reality informed by research in teaching and learning? How can we persuade them to see the benefit of competency-based education in enhancing learning? And how do we get them to vary and deepen their teaching and learning practices? The second theory adopted is that of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance talk about the fact that human beings hold different cognitions or ideas at different times. Cognitive dissonance then comes in when one holds different cognitions at the same time, particularly conflicting ideas about the same thing at the same time. So it gets on to become uncomfortable. So using this is to get those exposed to this project to become uncomfortable about the ideas they hold about students, about teaching and learning, and so on. And then as a result, get them now to be receptive towards more progressive, more positive ideas contributed by competency-based education. This is the conceptual model developed for this study. We have the project that we have developed here, informed by literature, also informed by the beautiful work that the Teen Academy is doing. I also went through their online faculty development program, and so I gathered quite a lot of ideas there. So we use that to develop, competency-based education project, and we targeted graduate student, postgraduate student, as well as faculty. But the initial approach, the initial task was to focus on graduate students. And then I take a course in Sociology of Education for a master's degree student. It's a large class, so I use that as a ready class for the idea. And because many of those students in that class, well, a number of them are already engaged as faculty members at different levels of education. Some of them teach at lower education level, but they are all members of the Department of Teacher Education, so they easily connected with the idea. So the project was administered on them, and then at the end of the day, we assess the outcome set for the project. And the benefit of this project is then to inform the program that I undertake at the Center for Teaching and Learning of the University of Ibadan. Now, as a Center for Teaching and Learning, two things go on regularly. And the first is organize workshop on different aspects of pedagogy, teaching and learning, and all that. Then we also have invitational presentations. Those are programs organized by other unit, faculties, departments, to which we are invited to speak on one topic or the other. And I've been using that also to promote so many of the ideas in competency-based education. At the end of each program, we always find a way of assessing the outcome or the impact of that presentation, believing that whatever values will also feed into the center's future program, so that at the end of the day, it can be a program being used as an example of good practice informing institutional program. Now, what exactly did we do in the project? We developed intended learning outcomes, which was negotiated with students, was presented to them at the beginning. This course will be about this. We spell out the aspect of the subject-specific, outcomes, as well as the generic, competencies. The generic competencies, students tended to relate with them more because they see more connection with their future engagement. And so after we agreed on that, we also got their permission to take part in the express willingness to take part in the project. So then we went into the second aspect, which was to teach different topics, in the course. It was a course that spanned over 14 weeks or one semester. And we used different teaching and learning strategies: lecture session, debate, presentation, excursion, reflection, guest lecture, video presentation, written exam, discussions, question and answer, focus group discussion, social media interaction. As I speak, we still keep the social media platform, of that class, because I've notified them that this presentation is coming, and between the last 3 days, they have been sending encouragement. Also, I believe many of them will be connecting now and then following. So it has been very useful doing that. And then the third aspect, was to connect with the different types of learning. Here, we have adopted Bloom's taxonomy. We're also familiar with Solo taxonomy, but because we have been used to Bloom's taxonomy over time, so we adopted the Bloom's taxonomy, from the lowest level of remembering to understanding, application, analysis, evaluation, creativity, for the different topics that we taught. At the end of the day, there was an assessment of teaching and learning and outcomes achievement. End of semester examination was taken along with the continuous assessment, different aspects of the course. But we try to divide this by putting equal weight on the continuous assessment as well as end of semester. The university policy actually demands that 40% should be for continuous assessment, 60% for end of semester. But we, try to change that a little bit to make continuous assessment 50% and end of semester, assessment 50%. And the various assessment, there was a feedback to the student on regular basis. Indeed, they acknowledged that it was the first course they were going to take in the university that gave them the feedback on their various assessment to date. So that encouraged them. Before they wrote their final exam, their scores for continuous assessment was already available to them. So, but in this task, the faculty development, the teacher, was assisted by a number of teaching assistants, because we engaged on so many things that would have been so difficult for me alone to achieve. So a number of my Ph.D. students assisted me at different stages. In some of the, during presentations, sometimes they coordinate, sometimes I just sit at the background. Sometimes when I'm out of the university, they go ahead coordinating the presentation and so on and so forth. So the faculty developer, teaching assistant, as well as the most important element in the study, the student participated in it. Now, we set out to seek answer to three major questions, namely, to what extent did students assess the project as effective in achieving learning outcomes? Secondly, how can we get more practitioners to adopt positively rated aspects of this project? And how do we integrate this project into existing institutional programs? We adopted a mixed method design and relied both on qualitative and quantitative data. It was a modeling of good practice approach, and as I've expressed, 117 students in a course was involved. But at the end of the day, I think 3 of them dropped out, so 114 completed the course. What did we find out? Through the various instruments that we use to generate feedback, we use 3 major instruments. The first instrument was an instrument that was actually designed through the project that I mentioned above, the Mercator project. It was a student assessment of teaching effectiveness instrument, and the university eventually adopted that instrument. So it's being used in the university now by another different center, Center for Quality Assurance. So they go around to administer this on students to assess the effectiveness of the teacher, and it has different components. So we use that for the student to assess the effectiveness of the teacher. So different aspects of the quality of the teacher were rated, but there was an overall aspect of it that demanded of the student to assess the teacher in comparison with other teachers they have come across in their different courses. And in this, the first rate the teacher as whether it's top 10% of all the teachers that they've come across. And they rated this particular teacher, those who rated him as top 10%, 70.8%. Those who rated him as top 25%, 24.5%. So if we had the two, we have significant feedback saying that the teacher was quite effective using the method. They also have some other written comments which we have collated. And so outcome achievement also showed something. 78% was the highest score in the course, whereas 40% was the lowest. But the average score was above 60. So 57% scored 60 and above. We have used 60 because in the university for a master's degree program, If you score 60%, then you're eligible to proceed to doctoral level. And 40% is the pass mark. So we use that. So in the course that shows that at least students also the outcome achievements showed positive. Teaching effectiveness was also rated high with weighted average of 4.4. Teaching and learning strategies employed were rated as effective in achieving learning outcomes. The different teaching and learning strategies showed between 1.85 and then 2.9 weighted average. After all that, we also, some of the preliminary attempts to use competency-based education, or the lessons derived from this project in some of our workshop activities and invitational program, was also to find out how, what the general attitude of the faculty members who pass through different components of our faculty developer program think about competency-based education strategy. And the preliminary data showed positive disposition towards competency-based education. Currently now, the Faculty of Pharmacy has requested for a proposal to train all their faculty members on competency-based education. Shortly before I came down to Spain, I was also in another state university training all their faculty members, and competency-based education was a major part of that training. So there's a positive disposition towards that. So the summary and the implication of the study is that the study affirmed effectiveness and prospect of competency-based education approach in achieving learning outcomes, and also for faculty development program, as already expressed in literature. It also challenged us to proceed and formally integrate it into the center's program, that is the Center for Teaching and Learning of the university. Because if something is good, then you should embrace it. But, and this is in consonance with earlier and related study and the intervention of Deusto International Tuning Academy project, which, all over the world, we have Tuning Russia, Tuning Africa, and so on and so forth, which is showing that, the intervention is useful, it has prospect. And my university is already thinking of readjusting its curriculum to competency-based. In fact, our College of Medicine has already adjusted its own program now. So, thank you very much. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you for your attention.